Hello.
Hi, Terry.
Hello.
Hi there. So, some positive news this week. As you may well have seen, I have worked through the rest of the outstanding stuff on the first draft of the reference architecture, and we've published that. So that's now live on the site. So it's only the first tranche of what we need to do, but at least
Terry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you've gone mute for me. Yeah, I just lost sound too.
All right, I've just cut to a different microphone. Are you hearing me now?
Yes,
Okay, where did you lose me?
quite early on.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
lost you
so
about midway through your first.
okay, so what I was saying really was that we've been through and published the first draft of the reference architecture work that we had in the PR. So that's now live on the site. And so that covers off the views and viewpoints, drivers and constraints, and the sort of the readiness to undertake a transition to continuous delivery. Now that really is the entry point into what we need as an architecture. So the intention is to iteratively go around and do a series of these pieces to add more information and develop people's understanding of what the challenges are and how to approach them. But we've now at least got the basics up there and enough for people to understand where to start. Now, I'm happy for people to go back to that and add to it and improve it. So feel free to add a PR if there's anything on there that you think needs more detail, or if there's additional views and viewpoints, for example. I know there's quite a few that we could add in there to flesh that out. Moving forward, what I think we probably need to look at next is, if you like, the business architecture piece, which is looking in a bit more detail at how you tackle the change that you need within the organization to facilitate the development work moving in a continuous delivery approach. So, that's the pieces about how do you take all of your business processes that were retrospective governance over deliverables, and then change your business process so that those things are front loaded rather than rear loaded. So that what you're doing is you're getting the individual supporting business teams to be engaged with the product teams upfront to define policy and set automated rules, so that then every single deployment release goes through the same process and it's all automated and you're applying the same set of rules consistently each time. And I think that's where a lot of the challenges lie, because it's relatively straightforward to understand how to automate things like unit tests, but it's a lot more challenging to understand how to take all the rest of your business governance and tackle that from an automation approach. So does anyone have any thoughts on that stuff? What might be a good first business area to tackle and expand on? No volunteers, okay. So I think there's a few areas that we could look at. Obviously, I used the sort of software licensing example in the section that we've just published. So looking at the, if you like, the open source licensing challenge, how do you evaluate your software supply chain from a licensing perspective? How do you validate that all the licenses that you're inheriting are things that you want to associate with, and also how you need to verify that any commercial packages that are in there are correctly licensed before you do a deployment. But there's lots of other examples that we could look at. We could look at the security and privacy aspects of the supply chain and look at how you might want to approach those from a business process perspective. I think this is one where it's a case of finding the things that are most relevant to the sorts of organizations that are likely to want to adopt continuous delivery, and then we can focus on things that are familiar problems, but which might be showstoppers if there wasn't a clear path to how we can do that. Now, one of the things that we are going to need to do is to evangelize a bit more on this piece of the work that we're doing, because we could really do with having a larger contributor base and more people involved to help get this going a bit quicker. Because right now what we really need is people with experience and interest in particular problem areas, so that we can draw on their experience to help expand those bits of the reference architecture. Cara, I don't know if you've got any ideas for how we might reach out to a broader group of people.
I mean, the some obvious channels would be blog posts. Also, maybe a very short blog post and then tweeting it out, sort of an open call. Could be one way to have a really try and open the channel quite a lot of contributors.
Yeah, so I think the part of the challenge that we've got is that our existing communication base is more on the technical engineering side. And so what we need to be doing now is reaching out more into the business and operations side to get people involved who are not necessarily operating on frontline engineering tasks as we've been focused on previously, but more involved in governance processes and all the really messy, awkward bits of making sure that your product is actually safe to put in front of customers. I think that's something that we can set as a background task and have a think about how we can identify new stakeholders, because potentially the people that we need to talk to are already in post in member organizations, for example, but they're not connected into the work that we're doing right now because we haven't been paying sufficient attention to their problems to have been of relevance to them. So, you know, a lot of this work is about now expanding the relevance so that we're communicating to a much broader audience, and then starting to get more people interested in how this approach solves their problems, and not just the problems of the development teams. Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to discuss today, in terms of things that we need to add into the architecture, or other unrelated best practices issues?
I know that the best practices work is currently going around business process and things like that. I wanted to check in to see if there is an intent to provide exemplar technical pipelines as a follow-on artifact.
Yeah, so the process that we're following is sort of roughly aligned to that TOGAF architecture model. So what we've done to date is effectively in the architecture vision space, where you touch on, you know, what are the drivers for engaging in this piece of work? Why are we doing this? Why is it important? What are the things that are the decision-making points that we use as anchors for all of the subsequent activities? And then what are the views and viewpoints of all the stakeholders? So now that's in place, we then go through things like the business architecture and the technical architectures, and then refine those, building on the foundation that we set up originally. So the intent really is to not say, here's an arbitrary example of a possible pipeline, but it's to teach people how to think about, here are the governance challenges that are significant to my product, and therefore how do I build each of these pieces into a pipeline so that I know that when I release things, all the important bits have been checked and verified in that release, and I will be getting alerts and warnings if something has gone awry. And I think the challenge that we see a lot of is that people are used to coming to continuous delivery from an engineering perspective. So all the focus is on, you know, what's the governance around the code quality from a technical perspective, but there's very little consideration for, yes, but is that code doing something that's actually legal? And is it going to damage our brand by publishing it? Does it look like it's one of our products? All of these types of questions that are in many ways more important to the business than the things that we're more familiar doing on an engineering side, because they have much more immediate relevance to a business value. So it's trying to explain to people, not here's a thing that you need to copy, but here's the set of thinking tools that you need to work this out for yourself in your unique problem domain.
Will there be examples that we work through?
Yeah, and that's the intention really of the next sections, is to say, okay, well, now we've identified a set of common concerns that you're likely to find in most businesses. So we can then drill into any one of those positions and say, well, given that this is important to the business, how do you translate that into continuous delivery? And what are the risks if you don't translate it?
To the degree that you need an example, I'm happy to represent eBay's use cases.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm hoping that you've got a bunch of stuff that you'll be able to contribute to this as some examples of how we're tackling this in the context of the business problem. Because what the challenge that we've got is that because we're used to doing this stuff, we're not very good at explaining how to get to that point where you've got a really complex pipeline with a lot of stuff going on. And that's the important knowledge gap for anyone who's following on and trying to join this as a way of working. In many ways, it just confuses people to give them a complex pipeline example without giving them the context to understand why each of those pieces is in the pipeline and what it's doing in terms of derived value. But there's also the flip side to this, which is that if you're trying to convince your organization that this is the right way to go, then you're going to need proof of business value. And so really what this reference architecture has to do is not design a pipeline, it's to be the sales pitch that demonstrates business value to every stakeholder within an organization, so that when someone within an organization tries to pitch this as a way of working, they've already got the tools that they need to say, look, for a stakeholder in legal, this is what's important and what it does for you, and for a stakeholder in security, this is what it's important and it does for you, and in sales and marketing, and each of these areas where people are mostly isolated from the bigger picture, or even fighting against each other for budget in a corporate scenario, you need to have a very clear message that says, here's the advantage, this is how this transforms the way that your team works, this is how you can unlock a lot more capacity so that you can be doing the things that you want to be working on, rather than snowed under trying to keep up with urgent requests from people who want to get stuff out the door. And a lot of this is really about teaching the organization to repace itself, so that it's not forever fighting fires and trying to catch up, but instead it's putting in some work to automate the stuff that will then allow it to have the time to make the right decisions at the right time. So can I just ask, for those on the call, what sort of background do you have in touching on these sorts of business areas? Have we got people who have got some experience in different areas of product development?
I don't have any expertise in product development other than the engineering stuff.
Okay, so I think that's probably something that we need to think about, is how do we get more of those customers in the room because I'm constantly concerned that we're not eating our own dog food in the way that we're doing stuff within the CDF, that we really need to be building this stuff in close collaboration with the people who it serves best. So the customers need to be in the conversation, and we need to be making sure that we're representing the real concerns, the real problems of people actually doing stuff in this space, rather than trying to second guess it from an engineering perspective or any other perspective. We need to be doing the work to get the customer sitting next to us, telling us their experiences, and also sharing, hopefully, some of the challenges of getting from A to B on this journey, because in many cases this involves taking a whole bunch of departments and turning them inside out, and from my experience, that's never an easy or comfortable journey. So there will be lots of valuable insights that we need to be capturing in that space. So I think before we can really move on with the next phases, we've got to have a bigger push to get more people into this group who have got hands-on experience in the business management side of things, the operational side of things, and have those viewpoints that we've listed out in the release today. So that's our shopping list, really. These are the people that we need to be talking to. How can we find some of them and get them to join in this work to help shape the overall reference architecture?
Terry, would you be willing to write quite a short, just covering the information blog post on the work that's being done here and the participants we're looking for, the input we're looking for?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Awesome, thank you.
Do you want me to do something in a templated form?
Just the regular blog post format will do, and then we'll get it published on the site, and then we can begin sharing that, and that just kind of gives an easy reference point so people can read, exactly what it is that we want.
Okay, great. Well, if you can point me to a template for that, then I'll get one of those over to you.
Okay, great.
All right, well, I don't have anything else that I needed to discuss today. So anyone else got anything that they wanted to bring up? Okay, well, in that case, I'll give you half an hour back.
Thanks, everyone.